And now we want to bring in Jake Sherman. He is a senior writer for Politico and an NBC News political contributor. Jake, great to see you. So let's talk about President Trump signaling that he wants to sign executive orders that he says will get that relief to Americans. No timeline, though, no indication of exactly how much he's talking about or whether he even has the authority to do it. So break this down for us. What are the key sticking points between the White House and Congress? And is there any sign that the relief is coming soon to Americans?
Well, Kristen, 12 meetings over 2 weeks, and Congress was not able to find any middle ground for this relief. It's unemployment benefits and state and local aid. Democrats are very worried about state and local governments not having any money after this pandemic. The two sides could not come to any form of agreement. Now, we expect this, so that remains unsolved. The president cannot funnel state and local money to states and does not want to. But we do anticipate that these executive orders will come in the next couple of days. The president is eager to get it done and eager to take kind of singular political credit for extending unemployment benefits in the coming days. And we're only 80-something days before a presidential election. So the president is happy to beat up on Congress and take the political win himself.
So, Jake, you've got the negotiations going on here in Washington, D.C. You've got the president at his Gulf estate in New Jersey right now. We saw him during that news conference with several dozen club members there, many of them not wearing masks. Why has the president not been more directly engaged in these talks?
Well, Peter, it's amazing. The president has not spoken to Speaker Nancy Pelosi once during this pandemic. They have no relationship. Any negotiation between the president and the speaker would be, in my estimation, having observed this relationship, horribly unproductive. They don't get along. The president can deal with Chuck Schumer, but has had a long-running problem with Nancy Pelosi for reasons that are not entirely clear to me. So he's deputized his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, two very different politicians from very different sides of the political spectrum, and has tried to get them to cut a deal, and they have not been able to either. So kind of this gridlock does not show any signs of easing in the next month or so.
It sure does not. Jake, let's talk about the other big story that everyone's talking about all across the country. Who is Joe Biden going to pick as his running mate? NBC News learned overnight that Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer met with Biden last weekend. She's about one of four names, we think. We're getting a lot of buzz. Tell us what you think the final selection might be.
Well, I think obviously Whitmer's a very high pick, but so is Kamala Harris, the senator from California. Karen Bass, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, is another name to talk about. But I imagine there'll be some more visitors to Delaware in the next couple of months. Obviously, Susan Rice and Tammy Duckworth, two other Washington insiders, basically in the mix. But listen, I spoke to a senior Biden aide in the last couple of days who said the only people who have any idea who this is going to be is Jill Biden and Joe Biden. So I think a lot of the chatter is just that, and we'll probably find out in the next week or so.
Yeah, Joe Biden taking a very deliberative process. Jake Sherman, thank you so much for all of your insights this morning. Really appreciate it.